Thanks everyone for coming today, and thank you, Mike. I am with the National Alliance on Mental Illness. We are the nation's largest grassroots organization dedicated to building better lives for the millions affected by mental health conditions and mental illness. At Nami Greenville, we're not psychologists or psychiatrists or social workers. We are, however, experts in our own and our loved ones' experience of living with mental illness. I am a caregiver, so I'm one of those people. So the agenda today, I'm going to cover programs and services that we offer and tell you a little bit about our people. But first, I wanted to get your attention with some numbers. I was doing some research. You know, there are always the Nami numbers, but there's some other numbers out there. The WHO, the World Health Organization, estimates the cost of untreated mental illness worldwide at $1 trillion a year. $1 trillion a year. The global cost of mental health conditions alone was $2.5 trillion in 2010. And this is with a projected increase to over $6 trillion in 2030. So some pretty sizable numbers, and that is one of the reasons we exist. So I talked about our mission, our history. Nami was founded in 1979 around a kitchen table, a bunch of housewives saying, how are we going to get help for our family members who have mental illness? Here in Nami, we were originally incorporated as the Alliance for the Mentally Ill of Greenville, and we became affiliated with Nami National out of Virginia in 1986. Our funding is primarily three legs of the stool, and I start by saying we are not federally funded. I talk to a lot of people, and for some reason when we talk mental health, they think, oh, you have federal funds. No, we do not. So the first leg of the stool is our Nami Walks. It's done in the spring every year. It'll be May 2017, and that brings in a good portion of our operating income and our operating monies. The second leg of the stool are private donations. They trickle in. We get them via PayPal and our website, or some people send in checks. Often they are donations dedicated to a family member or someone they've lost that has died by suicide. And lastly, we have applied for and received some local grant money, one of which is the Greenville Women Giving, and that funds our youth program and my role with the organization. And I'll talk a little bit about that program as we go through our services. The structure of NAMI is the national organization in Virginia. We have state chapters across the country, South Carolina being one of them, and then we have local affiliates. Greenville is a very active and sizable affiliate. I think there might be 11 affiliates in the state, but sometimes they're at people's garages or spare bedroom, just to give you an idea of the size. And here are some statistics, and I always start with this because mental illness is one of those invisible illnesses, and it carries a lot of stigma. So 193 billion lost earnings in America per year. We talked to an executive VP about this statistic, and he said it's very hard to track. So even though we know this, corporations and companies have a hard time acting on this number, or so they say. 90% of suicides have an underlying mental illness. Depression is the leading cause of disability worldwide. That's why the World Health Organization gives you those numbers. 10.2 million adults have coexisting drug addiction and mental health conditions or mental illness. And 60%, I always get this wrong, but 60% of people basically aren't receiving the help they need. This red block, 18.1% of our population has anxiety disorders. Think about that. That's almost 20% of our population. And just a little nugget, sometimes you see this acted out as anger. So when you start seeing people who are angry all the time, they may have this condition. Okay, and in youth, because I have this youth program, 218,000 South Carolina children and youth are affected by mental health conditions. 135 teen suicides between 2008 and 2012. Teen suicides, other than motor vehicle accidents, teen suicides are the greatest cause of death among teens. I have a chart in another presentation that shows, greater than cancer, greater than heart disease. So 70% of those in the juvenile justice system have an underlying mental health condition. 50% drop out of high school. 14 is the average age mental illness begins. But as Erica and I were discussing, you see and you may know of signs and symptoms early on, but sometimes they aren't. Sometimes there's a fine line, and when puberty strikes, you'll start to see more of that, the mental illness manifesting itself in their behavior. And 10 years is the average number of years people are delayed in treatment. So think about that for a minute. You are having symptoms of a heart attack and you have to wait 10 years to get assistance, or a broken foot, or a broken bone. It's pretty disturbing. Okay, so that's why we exist, because those statistics exist. So 3 core components of all our Nami programs. They're peer-led, they're evidence-based, and Nami believes strongly in training. So Nami relies on volunteers. We have four employees at Nami here in Greenville, 1 full-time employee and 3 part-time employees, of which I am one. But all the volunteers are trained, whether they're leading a class, whether they're facilitating a support group, they are trained and certified in the Nami way. So that leads me to our support groups. There are 2 types, the family support group and the connection recovery group. The connection recovery group is, as the name implies, it's for those who experience or live with a mental health condition. The family support group is for the caregivers, or people that want to know how to interact with their family members who have mental health conditions. Both of these groups meet in different rooms, but at the same time, and I always quote this incorrectly, so I'm going to look at my notes. Okay, every Monday at the Westminster Presbyterian Church at Augusta Street from 6:15 to 7:45, and also the 2nd and 4th Thursday of each month at the Taylor's Baptist Church. There's no registration required. You show up whenever you want. Some people go frequently, some people, once every 3 months. And then there's one for veterans only at the VA, the 1st and 3rd Wednesday of each month. Okay, I mentioned the youth program that Greenville Women Giving is helping fund. We're calling it Teens for Healthy Mind. It's an umbrella name. It consists of 3 of the NAMI signature presentations and programs. Ending the Silence, Parents and Teachers as Allies, and Say It Out Loud. Ending the Silence is a 50-minute presentation when we go into the school system and deliver this presentation to a group of students, middle to high school age. And it is a leader, we call it a lead presenter, myself maybe, a caregiver, who's had a child in the school system with a mental health condition, or currently does, and a youth who is living in recovery. The youth takes 10 minutes of that 50-minute presentation, and the students relate very well to the youth presenter. There's also some video clips in the presentation that were created by youth for teens. The Parents and Teachers as Allies component is about an hour. We keep it at an hour. And we go into the school, maybe a PTA meeting, after school, a department meeting, and present similar content, but it's delivered to the parents and teachers. So they understand signs and symptoms and what, someone may be acting out, what else could it be? And people think they know, but I must tell you, I've been living with this type of situation with my daughter for years, and I learn something every day. So So you don't know enough. It's one of those experiences. Say It Out Loud is a component that allows us to provide content to the schools, and they are able to establish a club-like environment, and it allows them to shift the culture. I had one of the Greenville district counselors tell me, you know, those presentations are great, Carol, but they're one and done. We want to slowly shift the culture and keep the dialogue going and have a conversation and invite in presenters. Okay, so objectives of the program: raise awareness, change perception, hopefully end stigma, engage students in conversations, teach, inform, and include the parents and teachers as partners. And I'm going to wrap up with this slide. On the right, we talked about parents and teachers as allies and in silence. In Our Own Voice is a 60 to 90 minute presentation, as the name implies. It's a speaking program. You can talk to church groups, any type of clubs, in schools. And on the left are our signature programs. And I provided a handout. Family to Family is something offered, you'd say, the family support group you saw. So Family to Family are those people that are attending, the caregivers. And it's a series of 12 classes, and it's all about signs and symptoms. It's about diagnosis, understanding what the people we're caring for are going through. Peer-to-peer, the Connection Recovery Group members would attend this, and it is taught by somebody living in recovery. 10 classes. Basics, I think this is the one my colleague Jill always talks about, where it went from her existing to living, and that's why she became involved in Nami. And it's a 6-week program, and it's for caregivers of children and adolescents with mental health conditions. Lastly, crisis intervention. Proud to say we're actively involved with Greenville County, Greenville City, Greer Police Departments in teaching crisis intervention training. And this really helps the first responders understand how to de-escalate a situation, all the signs and symptoms. And you will be amazed at what they learn. I do role play in some of those classes, and I've seen some of the officers physically want to try and contain me as I'm acting in character, while others are saying, "Look at me," and they're talking to them and helping them understand while their brain may be in chaos. So, real helpful for our community. So, takeaway. We have a walk in the spring. You don't even have to donate. I ask that you join us, May 2017. We'll have the dates as soon as Furman confirms. And this is our public display of stepping up and representing the community and all those people who suffer from mental health conditions. And lastly, 1 in 5. My friend in the back row, he mentioned 1 in 4. That's tossed around all the time. 1 in 5 experiences a mental health condition in the course of a year. So look around the room. When you go to Christmas parties, look around. When you're out in public, look around your workforce. So pay it forward and tell one person about Nami. I find that the people who need it the most don't often have any idea what Nami provides, and that all these classes and this work is provided free of charge.
Questions for Carol?
Only ones that I know the answer to.